there are growing allegations about her and her financial dealings, real estate dealings, and even campaign dealings. Okay, here's Roger Stone. Now, it's Roger Stone, but he's a New York Attorney General. Tish James is in deep, bad word, deep, you know what, campaign finance, fraud, personal financial fraud, and the cover-up of sexual assault will take her down. Cover-up of, whoa, okay. And then you get this one, also from Roger, a careful examination of New York Attorney General Letitia James' financial disclosure shows that she inflated the value of her assets in order to get mortgages on various commercial properties, exactly what she falsely accused Donald Trump of doing. All right. Can't make it up. Donald Trump, meanwhile, coming out some 24 hours ago saying New York is the most corrupt state in the union. That is why so many businesses are leaving. This is why so many businesses don't want to have anything to do with this. So many judges and politicians are working to help fix New York to stop the kind of lawfare that was launched against me from falsely valuing Mar-a-Lago at $18 million when it's worth perhaps many multiples of that. Of course, you consider what just went down yesterday, which was the release of news that there is a property next door to Mar-a-Lago that's on the market, just the dirt, nothing on it, no house, nothing, for $200 million. And so how is Letitia coming up with $18 million? I mean, it seems grossly irresponsible. But if you listen to what some are saying on, I think this website is called White Collar Crime, Letitia's got a host of problems, according to them. They're accusing her of a lot. For example, perhaps some fraudulent activity as it relates to her campaign. Letitia James and Working Families Party, luxury travel and creative accounting, according to this site, that, there was this amazing, uncanny knack or ability to somehow be doing business on Martha's Vineyard in August during, like prime time, like most expensive time to go to Martha's Vineyard is August. And somehow Letitia's campaign is there. And they're renting a house, office space, renting hotel rooms, more office space, I guess. And at the same time, you get the Working Families Party doing this. And then, they're going through this and they're saying, gee, why are you having these luxury stays, Letitia? That doesn't really add up. Martha's Vineyard house rental, house stay for the working party. I mean, look at this, $2,000, $725, right in the middle of August, again, $1,878, hotel stay. It adds up. So people are asking questions about that, if you would. And then the other thing, as you heard from the tweet that was retweeted, I should point out, by none other than Donald Trump. Look at who is at the top of that letterhead. This is the tweet that came from Roger Stone saying that if you look at these records, she was actually doing some funny business as far as her own real estate was concerned. And what he's referring to is actually this right here, where somehow she has declared property value and then she's got a couple of mortgages on a property. He's like, wait a second, if the declared property value is only between 100 and 150K, this is some kind of vacation property that she was supposed to be renting out, I believe in Virginia. And he's like, how is it that you would have so much more in mortgages? Why would it be double in mortgages? That doesn't make any sense unless you were somehow inflating the assets. And then he also pointed this out, that according to her calendar year disclosures, the property's value surged by 42% between 21 and 22. And that doesn't really make sense given that, well, the city is telling a very different story. They actually showed a decrease in the property's value, down nearly 8%. So which is it, Letitia? Were you just trying to increase the value in order to get a better deal on mortgages? Look like you had a little more collateral? I mean, if she did it, she probably did. I still go back to this. Donald Trump had absolutely every right to value Mar-a-Lago however he saw fit. And I would just say the responsibility or the onus is on the bank that's making the loan to determine whether it's really worth that, since that would be their collateral. And by the way, I'm still waiting for the darn judges in this one. This is in the Court of Appeals for New York, and everybody's so damn slow. They're not doing what they ought to do, but they know the answer, right? We know the answer because you can go back to September. I mean, they wouldn't even let Judith Vale, who was the attorney for Letitia James, because you see, Letitia's just a politician. She doesn't argue in the appellate court. She couldn't even get a word out. They cut her right off. You know what? This case has no merit. There was no victim.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Well, several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
In other words, there was no victim. Letitia James completely made something up to go after somebody that she did not want to become the president of the United States. That was really pretty darn clear. And the appellate judges, they know it. In the Court of Appeals, they're like, wait, what is this? This sounds like a private case. What is this doing in the hands of Letitia James?
It was using...
I'm sorry, but what's being described sounds an awful lot like a potential commercial dispute between private actors.
Well, to go back to the first question about whether there's other examples of this, there are other examples of this. In the First American case, the Attorney General brought a 6312 case where the transaction at issue was between a very big bank, Wells Fargo, and a professional appraisal firm.
But it wasn't the concern there that the public would ultimately be negatively impacted and affected by what those corporate actors were doing.
And that concern is here as well, because when you have hidden risks getting injected into the market, that hurts the market and honest participants in the market. And the legislature also decided, contrary to what defendants think, that making sure that business in New York stays honest is the way to attract and keep business in New York.
To that point, the Executive Law 6312, I just want to read a section of it. Well, not exactly, but was enacted to promote and protect honesty and integrity. It's the same question I asked the other side. In commercial marketplaces in New York, by stopping fraudulent and illegal businesses. To accomplish this purpose, the statute authorizes the Attorney General to bring civil enforcement proceedings on behalf of the people whenever any person shall engage in repeated fraudulent or illegal acts or otherwise demonstrate persistent fraud or illegality in the carrying on, conducting, or transacting of business. I don't read harm or threat of harm in that, but the other side is saying that that is to be read into the statute. Are there any cases where the language harm or threat to harm limits the scope of the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor, not as to liability, and not in cases like this where what the Attorney General is seeking is injunctive relief and disgorgement.
No, okay. So we're still waiting, okay? We're still waiting on the Court of Appeals to slap her down there. It should have happened a while ago. I guess you get a bunch of scaredy cats. But bottom line, at least you got Pam Bondi, who again is coming forward now with charges against New York's Governor Kathy Hochul. She's got charges against Letitia James, charges against the head of the DMV, because why? They are in the way of the feds doing their job. They are not protecting the citizens that live there in New York. You can't have 650,000 known criminals in the country, 50,000 of whom are believed to have committed homicide and 20,000 sexual assault. I mean, that doesn't work, okay? And Donald Trump ran on cleaning up the border and getting people that are here criminally out. And that's exactly what he's doing. She, meanwhile, Letitia James, is doubling down on all her politics.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what? I know you don't want to see that, but you have to see that because you need to understand the context around this woman. You need to understand what a political animal she is and how she used and abused the law. Lawfare, as you might call it. She used and abused it to try and get rid of Donald Trump. Same thing going down with Alvin Bragg. Same thing going on with Fani Willis. She was not as successful because of her own indiscretions along the way. These people, however, they are what you would call political animals. And now it's being challenged. And now she could be threatened with jail time herself for actually getting in the way of what the federal government is trying to do. Think about that. I mean, this kind of is sort of a big deal. And I got to tell you, any which way you slice it, you know how this comes out? If it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and it may indeed, it comes out that Donald Trump has every right to control the borders. The federal government has this right. So Letitia James, you can pretend all you want. You can live in your vacuum with your tweets saying, oh, New York can do what it wants to do. No, New York cannot do what it wants to do. Not in this case. This is the responsibility of the federal government.